Good evening everyone, most especially to our instructor, Ma'am Beck. I am Anne Pauline Nerva, one of the discussant for today. And the topic that assigned to me is about popular literature detective story. So we all know that the popular literature includes those writings intended for the masses and those that find favor with large audiences. It can be distinguished from artistic literature in that is designed primarily to entertain. So let's tackle about the meaning of the detective story. It is a type of popular literature in which a crime is introduced and investigated and the culprit is revealed. Detective stories frequently operate on the principle that superficially convincing evidence is ultimately irrelevant. Usually, it is also axiomatic that the clues from which a logical solution to the problem can be reached be fairly presented to the reader exactly the same time that the sleuth deduces the solution to the puzzle from a logical interpretation of these clues. So first, there will be a detective and investigator, either be an amateur one or professional detective. He'll investigate the case and then solve a crime or a series of crime involved. The second, it presents a mysterious event or crime, and this mysterious event or crime is not always a murder. And at first, it conceals or hides the solution from the readers to create a doubtful, ambiguous, confused state of mind and situation. And then, towards the end, it is revealed through a successful investigation. Next, it is rely on logic rather than magic and supernatural elements. And sometimes, the wrong person accused based on the little evidence which confuse the readers, and it will create an enthusiasm in the readers. So next, the detective generally has nothing to gain from solving the crime. And lastly, the readers are challenged to solve by the clues provided. So the readers will be actively thinking or using their logic to solve the case. So let's proceed to the characteristics of detective story. First, the crime must be significant because the crime is the center and it should be worthy of attention it receives. And the second, the detective must be in some way a memorable character. He or she is the central figure in the story. He or she must be very intelligent, of course, unusual, clever, and observant. But also quirky, possessing perhaps some odd idiosyncrasies that distinguish him or her. Third, there must be an outstanding opponent. So, along with the exceptional detective, the opponent or a criminal clever enough to be a match for the hero. Solving the crime can't be too easy. It is a bit difficult and tricky to be solved, so there must an outstanding opponent. Number 4, all suspects must be introduced to the readers. Since that's the attraction of the detective story is the opportunity that the readers get to try to figure out the solution. Next, all clues the detective discovered must be shown to readers. So it must be made available to the readers also. And the last characteristics, the solution must be obvious, logical, and possible. That is the reason of the crime must not be preferably. It should not be resulting out of some accident or supernatural intervention, and the detective must be able to explain all aspects of the case in a reasonable way. So fine detective stories should meet each one of these standards. So the first widely acclaimed detective story in English literature was by Edgar Allan Poe, The Murders in the Rue Morgue. So let us first discuss about the author. Who is Edgar Allan Poe? He was an American writer, poet, editor, and literary critic. Poe is the best known for his poetry and short stories, particularly his tales of mystery and the macabre. He is widely regarded as a central figure of Romanticism in the United States and of American literature. Poe was one of the country's earliest practitioners of the short story and considered to be inventor of detective fiction genre, as well as a significant contributor to the emerging genre of science fiction. Poe was the first well-known American writer to earn a living through writing alone, resulting in a financially difficult life and career. The Murders in the Rue Morgue was first published in Graham's Magazine in 1841. It is considered as one of the first detective stories. So this short story that artfully lays out of clues for shocking case of two women who were brutally murdered in Paris. No grisly detail is spared in the description of the crime scene as it is discovered by neighbors responding to the woman's screams. The police are baffled by the fact that the murderer has managed to escape even though the woman's apartment appears to have been completely sealed from the inside. The gentle but impoverished C. Auguste Dupin and his nameless friend who narrates the story offered their services to the police, and through brilliant interpretation of the clues at the scene, identified the murderer, an escaped orangutan. Poe's character C. Auguste Dupin is generally considered to be the first fictional detective, and this character set a lot of precedents for how future fictional detective characters would behave and appear. For instance, Dupin is highly intellectual and seems disinterested in social interactions. Dupin's motivation for solving cases has little to do with financial gain and more to do with intellectual curiosity. Dupin's story is not narrated by the detective himself, but rather by a close friend who observes and admires the detective work. So that would be all. I hope you learned something. Thank you.